Hi, I'm in denial, and as any parent will know, if you have 2 or more children, the best thing that you can do for their own betterment is to rank them from worst to best, and seeing as though I don't have any children, well, not in the paternal sense at least, and also not in the sexual sense, I'm not Prince Andrew. They're just in my basement. What? I feed them like once a week, and if you know of a cheaper source of protein, I'm all ears. Anyway, as I don't have any children, I thought I'd rank the specialists of Battlefield 2042 instead. I'll be ranking them based on a couple of factors. Firstly, how useful I think they are, and 2, how moist they make me. I'll also mention how I think they could be improved upon, if at all. DICE would be mad not to listen to a person who mentions paedophilia and cannibalism in the first minute of their best specialist video. Some of the names I have no idea how to say, so instead I'll let Stephen Hawking introduce them. That way we can all blame Stephen Hawking if he pronounces them wrong and not a lazy cock who couldn't talk right. So without further ado, let's do it! At number 10, I've chosen
Santiago Dozer Espinosa.
Close enough, I think I probably could have managed that one myself, but yeah. Dozer's specialist skill, stroke trait, stroke gadget is his SOB-8 ballistic shield, and to be quite honest, I think it's about as useful as a diamond encrusted dildo with an ornate mother of pearl inlay. Sure is nice to look at, but use it and you'll just be fucking yourself. Don't get me wrong, it sure is fun giving someone a bash with it, but it's just so impractical. Your move speed suffers, your turn speed suffers, and it's actually pretty easy to kill a Dozer. When equipped, your feet will still be on show, and your enemies will gain a foot fetish quicker than the time it takes a group of body positive influencers to clean out an all-you-can-eat buffet. Your enemy can also easily jump or slide behind you and shoot you in the back. On top of this, you can just as easily get blown up with various explosives, so yeah, I'm sure you can start to see why Dozer and his ability are pretty shit. I think the best use for the shield is to just use it in open areas and long sightlines prone to snipers to fend off long distance enemies. Close quarters, you're pretty much guaranteed to get anally violated with the optional extra of getting a wrinkled ballsack dunked into your mouth. His passive trait, named Blast Resistant, is meant to reduce the damage taken from explosives, but in reality, you'd get more explosive resistance from a toddler used as a meat shield, so remember, in the event of a terrorist attack, grab the nearest 3-year-old because your life matters, theirs doesn't. T-shirt slogan maybe? So how would I improve Dozer? Well, I think first of all, reduce the movement penalty slightly, and then I think it would be pretty cool if you were able to equip a pistol. Nothing too powerful, just something to make it an actually useful gadget. So with all of this being said, for me, he isn't all that useful, and he doesn't even cause me slight dampening, so number 10 it is. Next, we have
Navin.
Again, I probably could have managed that, but oh well. Navin's speciality trait, the Cyber Warfare Suite, is the ability to hack various vehicles, players, player equipment, and base defenses, which sounds quite cool, but at the minute it's about as cool as a colonic irrigation. And whilst we're on the topic of colonic irrigation, remember to always ask for your colonically irrigated ass water, as you may make it big as an OnlyFans creator one day, and normal sane people will pay the big bucks for your bum liquid. When using Navin, I'd planned on him being a great anti-air specialist. Hack the enemy aircraft, disable their flares, switch to the anti-air launcher and take out the aircraft. Flawless plan. The only issue being that I could have shat the alphabet in the time that it takes to actually hack an aircraft. Don't think that made sense, but yeah. Subscribe for more linguistical bowel movements just like this. It takes a long time is my point, so quite often you're unable to complete the hack. In the event you are successful, the aircraft with its warning that it is being hacked has more than likely flown off out of range or sight of your anti-air launcher, meaning that you'll be left touching yourself to pass the time until the next chopper turns up. In the few matches I played as Navin to get this footage, I managed to successfully carry out my plan once, so yeah. However, I do think it is a little different with ground vehicles, and I was able to hack and destroy several of them. So I think this is how I'll primarily use him going forward. Hack the vehicle, disable the weapons, run in with C5 and blow them till the kingdom comes, or whatever the saying is. Where are my manners? This is 2042. His they, them, hers, pebbles, rocks and potato sticks passive trait is called the Trojan Network, which unfortunately isn't a group of like-minded condom aficionados who share their tips on how to sheathe their tips in an effort to reduce their contribution to the future global catastrophe that is overpopulation. No, it allows Navin to hack an enemy player, and then should you kill the hacked player, surrounding players light up for you in red. However, this is also not very convenient, as again, it takes too long to actually hack the player, then switch to your gun. Oh, you're dead. The time you've spent pissing around with your Nintendo Switch trying to get Mario to stop domestically abusing Peaches or whatever her name is, you've been spotted by the enemy and you're taking fire. It's just all too much hassle for quite little reward. So, improvements. An overall reduction in hacking times would be a start, and personally Personally, I'd scrap the condom network and maybe make it so that with every kill, nearby enemies are marked on the minimap for a couple of seconds or something like that anyway. I'd also increase the range of the Nintendo Switch. Overall, I think Navin could be useful, and he could also get you a little moist, but right now, he's only slightly useful and not very fun to use. In at number 8 is
Constantine Angel Angle.
That also wasn't too bad. Angel's trait is the loadout crate. This allows you to provide teammates with ammo and armor. You can also call in an actual loadout crate which allows players to switch their loadout without redeploying. There really isn't too much to comment on here. Giving ammo is giving ammo. If I said to you I'm going to put my fist in your ass right up to my elbow and you won't enjoy it but I will, you would experience just that. A fist in your ass right up to my elbow and you probably shouldn't be enjoying it as much as you are. So yeah, it's very useful, but not particularly fun. The loadout crate for me also feels like a bit of a waste of time. If you've played Battlefield 2042, you'll know that the redeploy screen is only ever a bullshit death away, normally occurring once every time you blink, so staying alive long enough to actually make use of the loadout crate is a rarity. Angel's passive trait is called the Trauma Specialist, something I like to think that I myself am a bit of a specialist in too, psychological and sexual trauma being my particular traumas of choice. Oh, trauma specialist as in treating trauma, not causing. My bad. I take back what I just said. We are nothing alike, and should this ever be used in court against me, I'd just like to point out that the next person to say guilty is a homosexual. Anyway, this means that he can revive teammates, but not only that, he also supplies them with armor, which as far as the role of medic goes is a pretty big plus. As for improvements, what improvements can be made to giving ammo? Maybe that the pouches he throws out go direct to players like bandages and ammo pouches in Battlefield 5 did, instead of just dropping them on the floor like a new mother with both arms amputated keeps dropping her baby. Number 8, because he just isn't that fun to use. Useful, but not fun. Number 7 is
Mckay.
Not quite, but A for effort. Valk's gadget is the S21 Surette pistol, which allows you to shoot dirty needles into your teammates, and it's 50-50 as to whether they get healed or get AIDS. Apparently it will also cause damage to enemies, but I suppose why not just use a fucking gun? So is the Surette pistol good? Well, let's just say that it's better than cancer and worse than getting a handjob from Optimus Prime. I'm not too sure which of those is worse actually. Optimus doesn't look like he uses moisturizer, so that's going to be a pretty rough handy. Digressing again, basically it's alright. It heals at range, but it doesn't heal very quickly. It also allows you to heal yourself, and quick tip here which I plagiarized from another channel and am now going to pass off as my own tip, had I not just admitted to stealing it from another channel, but whatever. Instead of doing the lengthy self-heal animation, simply do as anyone who's struggling with life's harsh realities does and just look down and shoot yourself. You'll feel better than ever. We're talking in-game here. If you're thinking of killing yourself IRL, help is out there. They'll be able to advise you on the best gun to ensure you don't miss. Valk's passive trait is the Combat Surgeon, which basically means you can revive downed players, a very helpful trait and one that your fellow teammates would appreciate you using if you're able to. Improvements now. The one big improvement I'd like to see is the Surette pistol being able to revive at range. Valk is the main medic of all the specialists, so let the grumpy old bitch do a job by giving her the tools she needs to succeed. I am a feminist now. I also think that the Surette pistol should heal much quicker. At the moment, it heals as quickly as the paraplegic Flash, which is a spin-off I'd love to see. It would just be a fat paraplegic in a wheelchair dressed as Flash telling everyone how fast he was before the accident. There you go, Hollywood, that one's on me. I think Valk just edges ahead of Angel, as she's just as useful but a little more fun to play. Number 6 is
Kimball Irish Brains.
Close enough. Irish's speciality is the fortification system, which consists of deployable cover and the shoot-down sentinel, both of which are quite useful under the right conditions. As any Trump supporter would agree, the wall is probably the better of the two. Anything that puts a barrier between you and anyone who doesn't agree that drinking bleach is the answer is a win in my book, am I right, fellas? However, the shoot-down sentinel can also be very useful when trying to hold down a hotly contested objective. It will shoot down any explosive projectiles thrown its way, and when explosive projectiles are being thrown around like pronouns in the 21st century, you'll be grateful for the extra help. Irish definitely suits the defensive player more, with gadgets tailored towards holding objectives and providing cover against enemy attacks. Irish's passive trait, Veteran, allows him to spawn with a small amount of armor, and he's able to pick up armor from downed enemies, which as a passive trait is okay I guess, but like my ability at spinning plates on the end of my cock, which is how I lost my job as a waiter at a fine dining restaurant, it could be better. better. So with that being said, how could we improve Irish? Well, apart from the obvious being the colour of his skin, knee, chin strap, I'd love a nice burgundy colour myself. Wait a minute, did you think I was going to say something racist? Well, I'm insulted. I love and hate all races equally. For instance, during my time as a waiter, I ejaculated in anyone and everyone's food. I didn't single out any one race or ethnicity because I'm not a racist. This was also probably another contributing factor to me being fired from that fancy restaurant. I'd have gotten away with it too if I'd have just masturbated in the kitchen instead of tableside, but I struggled to climax without an audience. There's just something about that look on people's faces of you're about to come on my salad niçoise that really gets me going. Anyway, Irish improvements. I think overall the gadgets are pretty well balanced, so I wouldn't improve anything on that count other than the deployability, which goes for all of the deployable gadgets in Battlefield 2042. They need to be much easier to deploy on all terrains, not just in flat areas. The veteran trait I think is okay, but I think it would be better if maybe he started with a small amount of armor as he does now and could pick up armor from downed enemies as he also does now. But maybe he could also regenerate that initial small amount of armor he starts with too if there's no ammo to pick up. Overall, Irish is okay to use. Quite useful, but for me as a more aggressive player, he wouldn't be my go-to guy. In number 5, we have
Weakest Casper Van Dale.
Okay, I thought it might struggle more with that one, but whatever. Casper's gadget is the OV-P recon drone, which can be used to spot enemies, disable enemy vehicle systems using a lock-on EMP blast, and the best way to use the drone is to run kamikaze attacks on vehicles when used in conjunction with C5 explosives. Unfortunately, there is talk of the drone being modified so that it can no longer carry C5, and if this is the case, then I will be heading to DICE headquarters to show them how many items of DICE branded stationery I can shove up my ass without shedding a single tear, which I don't think will actually achieve anything other than causing me severe anal and colonic hemorrhaging. But whilst inserting the third hole punch into my sphincter, I'll be sure to mention that I disapprove of their decisions. Anyway, while spotting enemies and pissing vehicles off with EMPs is quite useful, I don't particularly find it very fun, hence why the addition of a little bit of C5 makes Casper so much more enjoyable to play as. If this is removed, Casper will definitely be further down my list. Casper's passive trait, the movement sensor, does exactly that. It senses nearby enemy movement, and I think that statement definitely stands a good chance of bagging first place for the No Shit award. It appears as a small circle in the middle of your screen and will flash red whenever an enemy is nearby, which can be very useful. As for improvements, it depends on whether they nerf the drone so it is unable to carry C5. If it is nerfed, then I think the drone would definitely need improving, but probably more from a fun standpoint rather than a useful standpoint. Flying around looking at all the people I could be murdering, and we're not talking about my helicopter tour of the city I took last week, isn't particularly my idea of fun, nor is electromagnetically ejaculating on vehicles, so yeah, something would need to be done to make the drone a bit more interesting, for me anyway. The passive ability I think is quite well balanced at the minute. I've heard some people say that they'd like directional markers adding to it, and not to wipe my shit-crusted arse with their opinions, but I think this may border on making this ability a bit too good, unless of course the range was within sexual harassment distance, which according to one of my restraining orders is at least 300 feet, but I was thinking a little closer than that. At the minute, Casper is both useful and at times fun to play, but so help me God DICE, if you nerf the drone, you better have plenty of antibacterial wipes, cause I'm about to go stapler deep on your shit. In number 4 is
Jisuke.
Not bad, Stephen, but I think it's Jisoo.
Fuck off, you fucking pussy.
Anyway, Pake or Pike or whatever's ability is the EMG-X scanner, which gives you temporary wall hack vision. The ability works best in close quarter environments. Actually, it only works in close quarter environments, but unfortunately for
Pake,
close quarter environments aren't overly common in Battlefield 2042. Close quarter environments. The ability lasts about the same amount of time as it takes to discover that ghost pepper flavored lube was a bad idea, and that you now need to pour dairy products into every one of your orifices until you look like the dairy equivalent of the Bellagio, or what normal people would have just called 5 seconds. Once initiated, waves pulse out of you, which is just screaming to be compared to a throbbing penis, but I won't because that would be immature. With each wave, you're able to see a snapshot of your enemies through solid objects, allowing you to pinpoint their position and plan accordingly.
Pake's
passive trait, threat perception, which is basically another way of saying stranger danger, not really, but whatever, will light enemies up that have caused you damage, providing you with an opportunity to react, and as the Battlefield 2042 website puts it, allows you to
triangulate on the shooter and return fire.
Thank you, Steve.
Fuck you, cunt.
As for improvements, I think I'd leave the passive trait alone. I think that it is pretty balanced. It gives you a nudge in the right direction, but doesn't feel overpowered at all. With regards to the ability though, I think I'd make a few improvements. Firstly, I'd like the veiny throps to occur more often, which without talking about penises for like 30 seconds please, means that you'd get more frequent snapshots of your enemy's location. I'd also increase the range slightly and possibly even reduce the cooldown time, as it's quite long at the minute, unlike my penis. Fuck. In a nutshell, it is a useful in close quarters specialist that can be fun to use when in the right setting. Number 3 is
Pilot Boris Gostkowski.
Now I think that's probably the worst so far. Boris's specialist gadget is the SG-36 Sentry Gun. The Sentry will engage with enemy hostiles within a certain radius and will also highlight them in a nice shade of what I like to call menstrual red. It seems to be pretty accurate, the range is decent, and it makes a noise to alert you when an enemy has been spotted, which at times can be very useful. Even when you're not playing as Boris, you can benefit from staying close to a sentry turret, as this warning sound will alert you to an enemy's presence. If only such a warning system existed in real life that would alert you when someone was about to walk in on you masturbating. Man, if only. I mean, the staff room at lunchtime probably was neither the best time nor the place, but when a man's got a nut, a man's got a nut. So I do apologise to Sarah from accounts that I used her vegan 3-bean and chia seed tortilla wrap as a cum rag. Anyway, I think the wall hack vision really does elevate the sentry turret to wow, I think I just came territory. Without it, it would still be pretty good, but with the wall hacking, it feels like you and your turret are actually working together, which probably means that I should get some more friends, or just some friends would probably be a good place to start. Boris's passive ability is called Sentry Operator, and this just means that if you're in close proximity to your turret, its efficiency is improved, which simply means better accuracy and better range. I'd compare this trait to being in a vegetative state whilst getting a handjob. It's probably quite good, but it's hard to feel just how good, and I suppose we should also question why the nurses or janitors are masturbating brain-dead patients, but maybe I'll cover that in another video. So as for improvements, I don't think I would improve the turret. I think it's about right. The passive trait doesn't really feel like you're getting anything in addition to the turret, but I suppose the turret is pretty good as a gadget, so anything more may make Boris a little unbalanced. Overall, Boris can be very useful, particularly at capturing and holding down objectives, and the turret does make me a little bit drippy in my pants, hence position number 3. In number 2 is
Webster Mckay.
Meh. It's okay. Mckay's specialist gadget is his grappling hook, which allows you to reach otherwise inaccessible areas and will leave you feeling like an able-bodied person in a world of cripples, which is exactly how I feel when I go to the prosthetics clinic to gloat that I have all my limbs. I can highly recommend this fun weekend activity. It's invigorating and great for your self-esteem. Not theirs, but sometimes in life you just need to prioritise your own mental health, even if it's to the detriment of others, which is great advice that you should definitely act on. Anyway, the grappling hook is great, and I think with the maps of Battlefield 2042 being as big as they are, anything that permits you greater mobility is a huge win, which as a side note, I personally think it would be a great idea if all of the specialists had some kind of mobility trait to make the maps feel a bit smaller, things like jetpacks, zipline deployment, anti-gravity boots or some shit, but whatever. Pairing Mckay with a sniper is always a neat combination. Just use your grappling hook to gain the high ground and start picking off enemies whilst they wonder why their dad left them. I mean, why the sight of penises makes them happy. I mean, where the bullets are coming from. Mckay's passive trait, Nimble, allows you to move more quickly whilst aiming down the sights, which is a bit boring, but nonetheless quite a useful trait to have. Now for improvements. I definitely reduce the cooldown period before you're able to fire your grappling hook again, or maybe have it so that you can shoot up to 2 grappling hooks in quick succession with the cooldown recommencing for each hook fired. I'd also speed up the reload of the hook if you miss your shot. The amount of times I've missed and ended up wondering who I'm going to angry wank to later because I couldn't get it up is well, very few times, because I'm a pro gamer who gets all the sex, but it's probably going to be Dwayne Johnson. Mckay's trait is most certainly useful, particularly as the maps are so fucking huge like my penis, and it's equally fun to use, hence why he can come in me, hence why he comes in second place. And of course in first place, it's
Sundance Rosier.
Well, Stephen, thank you for your time. You've been shit.
Fuck you, pussy. I am going to ram my Hubble telescope up your black hole till you shit a new star system, you piece of trash.
Sundance's specialist gadget is the Smart Explosives, which includes the use of 3 different types of grenades. They are the scatter grenades, which once thrown rain down a cluster of smaller grenades, The anti-armor grenades, which once thrown will lock onto enemy vehicles and chase them down like a deluded teenager chases TikTok fame while simultaneously creating a whole library of masturbatory stimulation for pedophiles worldwide. And the EMP grenades, which fry enemy players' equipment and I think vehicles. The smart explosives are overall pretty decent. They don't seem overly powerful, but it's certainly not impossible to get kills with them. I find myself using the anti-armor grenades the most. If nothing else, they make enemy aircraft drop a log quicker than the love child of a lumberjack and a beaver, which to most is considered bestiality, and to others is called a wet dream, but I digress. The cluster grenades are also quite good. At first I'd throw them quite high to cover a larger area when it disperses into many smaller grenades, but I've actually found keeping them low, causing a tighter dispersion, leads to better results. The EMPs are okay, and if you enjoy shoving cactuses up your bumhole, then I'm sure you'll love them, but as I'm more of a mother of pearl inlaid diamond encrusted dildo inserter, I'll stick primarily to the other two types of grenade. But now, the passive trait, the wingsuit operator. I'm sorry, did someone just say throbbing cock simulator?
No.
The wingsuit is probably the best thing to come from Battlefield 2042, and the reason it's so good is because, as I've mentioned briefly before, the maps are absolutely huge. Not quite James Corden ego huge, but still pretty big. And just having this ability to get around with ease makes the maps seem much smaller, which is a good thing. I like to pair Sundance with an insertion beacon, which sounds like something used in a colonoscopy, but apparently it isn't. Just get somewhere high, drop your beacon, and then each time you respawn you can just fly wherever you want and you'll be there in a matter of seconds. Alternatively, you can play as Dozer and enjoy the next 30 minutes of Bunyan Field 2042. Man, I can't wait for the Trenchfoot and Tactical Hiking Boots DLCs. EA, just shut up and take my money. And then EA comes. So improvements. I think the smart explosives are well balanced and I wouldn't change how they perform. I would like to be able to change the default order of them though, so by default I'd have anti-armors as my primary, then clusters, and then EMPs. With the wingsuit, I'd just like to add the ability to still be able to deploy a parachute instead of having to use my tits as landing gear. Apart from this, I think the wingsuit works quite well. Without doubt for me, Sundance is the most useful and by far the most fun specialist to use. You can get some pretty impressive MLG, phase, insert other pro gaming reference here flanks off. Traversing the maps is much quicker and the smart explosives are decent too. Hence why for me, Sundance is the #1 best specialist in Battlefield 2042. So there you have it. All of the specialists in Battlefield 2042 ranked from wank to wanking juicing. And if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, let me know down below your favourite specialist and how big you estimate their slong is, and subscribe for more questionable content just like this.